appreciate everybody being on time, and I want to start on time. I want to be cognizant and respectful of all of your time. A lot of you guys just came from practice. I appreciate you guys being here. I know it's really warm in here, so my goal is to get through my part of this as quickly as possible, and then we have a couple of presenters that are coming in to speak to you, and hopefully they'll get done as quickly as possible. So let me introduce myself. My name is Justin Ferdinand. I'm the athletic director here at Serra High School. This is going to be year 5 of my tenure here at Serra High School. I love this place. I love everything about it. My son is in 7th grade right now, and if you asked him, he already goes to school here. So I welcome all of you, and I thank you for your time. There's some really important information I want to share with you tonight. The first few slides is stuff that you can get out of the student handbook, so I'm kind of going to go quickly through those so that we can get to some more important information that I want to share with you. So what is our athletic department mission statement? Okay, the mission is to cultivate an atmosphere of athletic excellence that will provide well-coached and motivated individuals. We strive to develop the gifts and talents of each individual student-athlete and foster gospel values in an environment of athletic distinction and mutual respect while building men of faith, wisdom, service, leadership, and community. This is the only slide all night that I'm going to read verbatim. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, hopefully when you leave here tonight, and I know the boys, within the first few experiences with their coaches, with the sport that they're playing, they're going to understand what this means. This is what we're all about. And as you can see here, there's nothing in there that talks about winning. Because this is the most important thing. And in our minds as an athletic department, winning becomes a byproduct of doing these things. We are a member of the WCAL, which is the West Catholic Athletic League. Ask anybody, any of the coaches that are in here tonight, it is probably, across the board, the most competitive league, one of the most competitive leagues in the entire state of California, for all sports. But again, when you look at what the league is committed to, these are the ideals that we want to teach these boys. Okay, this is what we expect out of our student athletes. And again, none of this has to do with winning. Okay, none of it has to do with how many touchdowns you score, how many points you score in a game, how many goals you have. Okay, it's the values that we want to teach, that we want to present, that we want these boys to walk away with when they graduate in 4 years. Okay, you're going to hear a lot about this tonight and moving forward, and all the presentations. Coaches are going to talk about these things a lot. So you'll get to become very familiar with all of these things. And then, as most of you are aware, and you've probably heard it, we are now, and when I say we, I mean all of us. Every one of you in this room is now a part of the Serra Brotherhood. And so what does that mean? Okay? We are all about respect, integrity, inclusion, and compassion. So, to the next level, those are just more values and morals and ideas that we want to instill in these boys, and we do that through the arena of athletics. Irregardless of what sport you play, they're going to understand what this means. Okay? The game's changed. Okay, this is competitive high school athletics. Some of the teams make cuts. Some guys are going to play more than others. That's where we are. Again, we're in the WCAL. We want to be competitive. But again, we're not going to sacrifice winning at the expense of respect and sportsmanship and those ideals. Okay? As you can see, it's a pretty extensive commitment to participate in athletics. And again, across the board, doesn't matter which sport you participate in, the commitment level is going to be about the same. Practices during vacation, games on Saturdays. Sometimes you're playing games during vacation, depending on what sport it is. And again, we're not asking you to choose between your family and school and athletics, but we just want to make sure that you understand what you're signing up for. Okay? So again, these are the things that are going to be in the student handbook. You're going to see them, or you've seen them already. So I'm just going to kind of gloss over these. If you have questions about any of these things as I go through this, or anything that you're unclear about, I will make myself available at the conclusion of the meeting tonight. And then always, please don't hesitate to send me an email, and I will try to do my best to either point you in the right direction or answer the question for you at that time. But again, because of the heat and all that stuff, like if we have a question and answer period, we might be here till 10 o'clock. So, and that's okay, but I know some of these boys need to get home and go to bed. So, the tryout process, okay? As we progress through the school year, some of these sports that aren't happening right now, so right now we have football, water polo, and cross country. All the other sports, they're going to have meetings throughout the course of the year, where coaches will come on campus, or they'll be on campus already. They'll host a meeting for players who are interested in track and field, or basketball, or soccer, or wrestling, or baseball, whatever the case may be. Even if you're in a sport at that time, go to the meeting. You can then have a conversation with the coach and say, look, I'm still playing football, but I want to try out for basketball. And they will make arrangements for you to be able to participate in that sport, or at least go through the tryout process. Okay? You guys, I commend all of you in this room, because I would say over 90% have already done their clearance process, which is amazing. So thank you for that. That just makes my life a lot easier. Because if the athletes are already cleared when they show up at day one for basketball or wrestling or soccer or baseball or track or volleyball, they're already cleared, so they're going to be able to go through the tryout on day one. So winter practices begin October 31st, spring practices begin January 30th. So you can see that there is an overlap. There always was and there always will be an overlap. So that's why if you're currently in a sport, or if you're playing basketball and then you want to try out for baseball, it's really important that you communicate with the coach to share your interest in participating in that particular sport. Does that make sense? Okay? What happens if you don't make a team? Okay? It happens. Unfortunately, it may or may not happen to some of you. So what do? Okay, try out for another sport. There are a number of ways to get involved in athletics if you don't make the team. We're always looking for team managers. You can participate as a student trainer, videographer, statistician, game clock operator. We're always looking for individuals to get involved in the sport or sports in some manner if they don't make the team. And if that doesn't, if that's doesn't work for you, then you can always look at other opportunities on campus. We have a tremendous visual performing arts program, music program, robotics. There's there's 45 or 50 clubs on campus that the boys can get involved in. Okay? Don't get discouraged if you don't make it. We can find ways to get you involved if you want to be involved. And all of our coaches are all on the same page. We encourage multi-sport athletes. So we want you guys to play football and then to do wrestling and then to run track. We want the boys to play water polo and then play basketball or soccer and then join the swim team. Like, we encourage that, and coaches are very open to entertaining ways to make sure that that happens. So don't be discouraged, and don't, we don't want all the boys to just focus on one sport. And there's a ton of athletes. There's probably 15 or 20 in the Athletic Hall of Fame outside of this room who participated in multiple sports. Just a couple off the top of my head: Greg Jeffries, Barry Bonds, Tom Brady. They all played multiple sports. And the list goes on and on. So attendance. In order to participate in practice and or a game, you have to come to school, you have to be in class by 9:30. Okay? Unless it's been prearranged with the assistant principal who's in charge of student life, who is Miss Ortiz. That has to be communicated ahead of time. It can't be communicated on the day of. We expect that these boys are going to take the responsibility to be able to communicate if there's a situation where they have to miss school. And we'll work with you as long as it's communicated appropriately and with enough time. So scholastic requirements. Let me be very, very clear with every boy in this room who can hear my voice at this point. You are student athletes. The first word is what? Student. You are a student first. Your primary responsibility at this school is to get an education. Participation in athletics is a privilege. Just because you make a team doesn't mean you've then earned the right to be on that team. We expect, we demand that you excel in the classroom. It's expected. And if you don't, and you can see here what the rules are with regards to players and athletes who aren't able to maintain a 2.0 GPA. But in all reality, the student part is your number one priority at this school. And everything else is secondary. So I hope you heard that. You'll hear it a number of other times. And it's just really important that you understand how that goes. Transportation. So the school provides a majority of transportation. If the school is offering transportation, it is the expectation that the athletes go with the team on that designated mode of transportation. Does that make sense? Okay? We understand that there might be extenuating circumstances, and those will be handled on an individualized basis. But for the most part, if the team has a bus, it's expected that all the players on that team go on the bus. Now, each coach might have a slightly different rule with regards to traveling back after a game or a match. That you will have to understand that process and that policy with that particular coach. Some coaches, if the parent writes a letter, then they can go home with their parents as opposed to going home on the bus. But all of that is all dependent on the individualized sport. Okay? And as you look at the bottom here, there are some sports that practice off campus. If the practices are off campus, it will be the parent's responsibility to provide transportation, or the coach will have to work with the team to set up carpools, this, that, and what have you. I know the freshman baseball team, they practice at Chanteloup over here at Beresford Park. They all walk. Okay, so after school, they get their stuff, they change in the locker room, and then they walk to practice. Okay? So just something to be aware of as parents, kind of understanding, depending on what sport it is, that will determine kind of if you have practices off campus and what that might look like. Uniforms and equipment are issued by the school. Therefore, they are school property. We expect those uniforms and that equipment to be respected and handled with an extreme amount of pride. Okay? It's super important because it's expensive, right? And when you're given gear at the beginning of the season that's the school's issued to you, the expectation is that gear will be returned at the end of the season. If it is not, then the family will be billed through their TADS account for the cost, maybe plus interest on those equipment items. Okay? Second thing, and just as important, maybe even more important, is the locker room. Okay? Every student athlete at Sarah will be issued a locker with a lock. The expectation is that those are utilized on a daily basis during practice. If your stuff goes missing in the locker room, and it's as a result of you forgetting to lock your locker or not utilizing your locker at all, that's your responsibility. That's not our responsibility. So please be aware of that. We had a number of unfortunate incidences last year, and every single incident where something went missing, it was because they just left the bag on the floor, or they just left the bag in an open locker. So let this be known that that's kind of what the expectation is. So outside competition, this is interesting and is all going to be sport dependent. So for example, if you play club soccer right now, you can continue to play club soccer until your first contest, scrimmage, and or game that you play at Sarah High School. Then you must stop playing club soccer until the high school season is over. Does that make sense? Okay, it's very important because if you are caught playing in a club game or contest after you've played in a high school game, your team will now forfeit all of the games that you played in at the high school level. Okay? And I know and again, it's sport dependent. There are a couple of sports, and I don't want to confuse anybody, but there are a couple of sports where you can participate in club and high school concurrently. If you're unsure, if you don't understand that, please, we can talk after. But the biggest thing is once you start your high school season, your club season should stop. That's just the simplest way to go about it. Drug and alcohol policy, zero tolerance. You can't be a Sarah student athlete and do these things. You just can't. Because it goes against everything that we talked about in the beginning. Because not only are you sacrificing yourself as an athlete, but now you're also sacrificing your entire team. You're letting your whole team down because of a decision that you decided to make. Okay? Any questions? General, quick, 30-second questions. Yeah?
Suspension from school, sports, and both.
Oh, all the above. The question was suspension from school, sports, or all the above, or both. And I said yes, all the above. Potentially removal from a team. We could be more strict than what the school policy is, if we so choose. Okay? So now we're going to kind of shift gears and talk about what does it mean to be a student athlete, and then what does it mean to be a parent within this program. So first off, what does it mean to be a student athlete? It's a commitment. It's a big commitment. And we understand that, we respect that, but at the same time we expect that. We expect all the student athletes to make that commitment. Communication is huge. And, sorry, I can't stand still. It's too much. The expectation now, starting today, for every student athlete in this room, is the responsibility of communication has now become yours. It's not your parents'. It's your responsibility. you have to miss practice, you talk to the coach. You're unhappy about something that's sport related, you talk to the coach. You guys are in high school now. It's time that you take responsibility. You have those conversations with the coaches. Okay, it shouldn't be the parents' responsibility to have those kinds of conversations. Now, I know that parents are going to have other conversations with the coaches and myself, and that's okay. But a majority of those conversations, you're struggling in class, you need to stay after class and hang out with a teacher so you can get extra help. Your parents shouldn't send that email to a coach. You should go and talk to your coach and say, Coach, I'm struggling in math. Can I spend a half an hour with the teacher after school and I'll come to practice as soon as I'm done? That's a perfect example of what we expect here of our student athletes. We ask that you communicate openly, honestly, respectfully with your coaches, teammates, parents, officials. That's what it's all about. You're a part of the brotherhood now. It's expected that you do these things. Okay? You're going to behave with integrity. When you show up to a visiting school, the expectation is when we leave that visiting school, whether we were in the locker room, on the pool deck, in the dugout, in the gym, wherever we are, the expectation from us is that we leave that location cleaner than it was when we got there. That's what we expect. That's what we would like to have all of our student athletes do and become. The other thing is we want you guys to be supportive of the other sports. There's 14 sports here. About 88% of students at Serra High School participate in athletics in one realm or another. Support your friends. Come to the games, right? Volleyball is in the gym. Come watch volleyball. Water polo is in the pool. Come watch water polo. Come support your teammates. And hopefully they'll do the same for you when you're playing baseball, or you're playing soccer, or you're running track, or you're playing golf. Okay? That's the expectation. Video representation of how we want our student athletes to be.
Some scaries.
That's the kid who got hit, going out to the pitcher who hit him. That's what we expect.
Oh, that's a.
Watch on the top left corner. They'll go back to it, I hope. Yeah. Opposing player. Opponent. Those are just a couple of visual representations of what we expect. When these boys leave after 4 years here at Serra High School, that's what we want to see. That's what we want them to become. And hopefully, and I will tell you, we have 14 coaches on campus, or 14 coaches in the athletic department, myself, an assistant athletic director, two athletic trainers, social media department, support staff, administration, everybody. If you ask anybody, they would all be in agreement of that. That's what we want. That's what we hope you already are. But if you're not, when you leave here, that's what we want. That's what we want. Those are the types of student athletes we want. Because the great thing is not only are they going to behave like that with opposing teams, but they're going to go out and they're going to give their best every single day. But they're going to do it in a way that isn't going to disgrace the Sarah S. That make sense? All right, so quickly we're going to now transition to the role of parents, because you have all now signed that commitment as well. You have now signed on to be part of the brotherhood, part of the Sarah Athletic Department community. And it's just as important, especially given the last few years and things that you've probably seen on TV or watched online. It hasn't always been pretty when it comes to spectators and parents and how they behave at games. Remember, every time you set foot on this campus, or every time you set foot on a visiting campus, you're representing yourselves, your son, but you're also representing us. And that's very important, right? We have very high expectation of our parents as well.
Hey, conductor, how about something new? You played this last year.
Come on, get your head out of your sacks.
I'm trying to hear.
I'm sick of turning hearing your kid play the wrong note. Where's my kid solo?
At least you can see your kid. Why is my kid stuck way in the back?
The conductor only plays his favorite.
So, I know, it's kind of funny and comical, but it kind of puts the point to emphasis in how important it is that there's a certain decorum and a certain behavior that's expected of the parents as well. Okay? And I know how difficult it can be. I'm a parent. My daughter's in the gym right now practicing with Mercy Volleyball. I know how difficult it can be. But at the same token, I understand what I represent when I show up in the gym. And I think it's important that you guys as parents understand that as well. And sportsmanship and decorum, unfortunately, of parents has taken a very difficult turn the last few years. And so as a league and as a school, we're trying to get back to what it was. Okay? What are we all about? We're all about those commitments. We're all about that mission statement. That's what we're about. Do we want to win? Absolutely. Are we going to win? Absolutely. But when the things aren't going your way, when things aren't going the way they should be, that shouldn't give the parents the right to behave like that. Okay? Many of you guys probably don't know, but we are in all sports across the board at the high school level, we are seeing a significant shortage in officials. To the point where some sports may not have officials at all. We may be forced to cancel games because we don't have officials. And the number one reason why officials are not officiating games anymore is because of what they're hearing from the stands. It's just, that's how it is. So what we're trying to do, what we would like to see is we'd like to see a shift in that. We'd like to see that changed. And now that you've signed the commitment and you're all Sarah Padres, hopefully you can get behind me and have that same mentality. Okay? Like I said, I have 14 coaches and 75 coaches in total who have all been hired through a very vigorous process. So what I'm asking you guys as parents is I'm asking you to trust that we've made the right decision in the people that we've put in front of you and in front of your boys as coaches. that they have the best interest of the program as a whole, of their particular team, and of your individual student athlete. They have that best interest at heart. Please trust us that we've made the right decision. Okay? Coaching from the sidelines isn't helpful. Yelling at officials actually does the reverse of what you think it does. You think it's going to help our team, and in fact, it does the exact opposite. Okay? So please just trust that we've made the right decisions, that the coaches have understood and know what they're doing, and have the best interests of your student athlete, of the team at heart. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Kevin Attard. Kevin Attard is our assistant athletic trainer, and he's going to speak just for a couple minutes, like 4 minutes, that's your time limit, about the athletic training department.
All right. Hello, I'm Kevin Attard. I'm the assistant athletic trainer here at Sarah. First off, I want to say this school does a really good job at giving the highest quality of care to the student athletes here. I just recently got hired last year. I'm the school's first assistant athletic trainer in history, and that just shows that they're going above and beyond to give you guys the highest quality of care. So there's 2 athletic trainers here. Some high schools don't even have an athletic trainer. So we go really above and beyond to give these kids the highest quality of care. You guys will see Duke Meek, he's our head athletic trainer. He's been here for 4 years now. He does a great job. You'll see him around on the football field, walking around. So that's our head athletic trainer. And then our physician is Dr. Diefendorf. He's been, I believe, volunteering his time for 31 years here. He'll be back again next year to cover varsity football. And we just recently came with an agreement with UCSF, who will be coming out to now our freshman and JV football games to cover those as well. So that's the first time in school history we'll have physician coverage at freshman and JV games. So again, the athletics department, sports medicine staff is doing everything we can to give you guys the highest quality of care here for student athletes. As far as injuries go, anytime anyone gets hurt, you guys can come to the athletic training room. It's right under the football field, or not under the football field, under the bleachers of the football field. You guys can come in there, we'll help you guys out. If you guys go see a doctor, this is big, we need a note. So athletic trainers, we follow physician guidelines. So once you've seen that physician, we go by what they say. So we need some kind of note that gives us direction. If we don't have a note, your kid's not playing until we get some kind of note with some direction. So I just want to make that clear now. As far as emergency actions plan go, we like to prepare ahead of time in case of emergencies. We just have written emergency action plans in place for anything you can imagine. And we even rehearsed that today with local emergency fire departments. And then as far as our concussion policy goes, this is probably the strictest policy that we abide by. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a very strict protocol, and there's zero wiggle room. It's a 7-day protocol, so if it's championship game day and your kid still has 1 more day left in the protocol, he's not playing. There's zero tolerance to that, so just kind of want to set that forward. Just really quickly, just wanted to go over like the benefits and risks of participating in sports. There's obviously a lot more benefits to playing sports than risk, but as far as risk go, obviously there's possibility of injury or catastrophic injury. We hope those don't happen, but that's why we're here. This is also probably the biggest point I want to make is nutrition and hydration. I can't tell you how many times it happens every year with incoming freshmen. They come into our room, they're feeling lightheaded, they feel really sick, and we ask them, what do they eat? What do they have for breakfast? A bowl of cereal. What do they have for lunch? Mozzarella sticks. And that's all they had all day, and they're in our room almost fainting. It can kind of tell you exactly the issue right there. So if you guys can prepare them ahead of time, giving them adequate fluids, giving them snacks to take during school, because a lot of kids will eat lunch at 12, they don't practice till 3, it's 85 degrees out and they haven't had anything to eat or drink since 12 o'clock, that they're not going to make it. So if you can give them snacks to take, that would be great. In case they don't have snacks though, we do have some extra ones in our room, just in case they don't have them. And then another last thing is just sleep. This also goes into kids coming into our room, they don't feel good. They've had the bowl of cereal and mozzarella sticks and they were up playing video games till 3 a.m. at night. So getting them regular sleep schedule is really important. There's a lot of studies that show like lack of sleep can lead to higher injury. You're more likely to get sick, which we know is obviously being sick right now is a kind of big thing. So just getting them on regular sleep schedule would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, just to echo what Kevin said, like we are super fortunate to have 2 athletic trainers on campus. They do a phenomenal job, and all of their support staff. They have a sports medicine club on campus that actually involves girls from Mercy and Notre Dame as well. And so they come on campus and help out with some of the, game day stuff, game day preparation. So it's a great program. Last thing is communication. Okay, we talked a little bit about communication and putting it on the responsibility of the student athlete, which we encourage, obviously. But if you have to talk to a coach, we ask you to set up an appointment. Okay? Coach's primary responsibility when they're here on campus is to be coaching. So if you have a question or a concern or something that you need to bring up to them, we ask that you please set an appointment. Email is the best way to communicate. All of the coaches' email addresses is on the school website, which is a great resource. The handbook that I kind of went over some of the things is on the school website. There are some other things that I'm going to share in a minute that are on the school website as well. But coaches really would rather not be bothered before practice or after practice unless they've set up an appointment with you. So we just ask that you please be respectful of their time and what their responsibility is, and just do the best you can to make time to speak with them. So we have a mobile app for Padre Athletics that has schedules, rosters, news, team, all kinds of information. So if you want to download that app, it's free. It will give you all the schedules of all the sports that we have inputted so far. We're still working through the schedules. And then once the team rosters are finalized, you'll have team rosters. There'll be other things. You can actually get push notifications of game results. So when games go final, you can actually get a push notification if you've favorited that team. Okay, so I encourage you guys, I don't know if the QR code works. It might be too small. It works? So I feel good about myself today. Thank you, that was good. I wasn't sure if it was gonna work. So please download that, rosters, results, schedules. And then social media, obviously, is huge. We have a Padre Athletic Twitter page, we have a Padre Athletic Instagram page, and I am currently working on creating a YouTube channel which will broadcast about most of our games live online free of cost. So we're still working through some of the finalization of that, and once that goes live, we will push out all of that information to you. Okay? All of this information also is on the school website. On the school website, you can also find information about the Athletic Hall of Fame. You can find information about the coaches with a short bio and their contact information. You can also find out about the Booster Club and getting involved in boosters and what the benefits are of the booster club. All of that information is on the website under athletics. So I encourage you at some point to go through and take a look at that information. I'm 4 minutes ahead of schedule. So here's what's going to happen now. Unfortunately, you're not done. Okay? We have a couple of amazing presenters coming in from the Positive Coaching Alliance. So all of the parents, you guys are going to stay in here. And all of the student athletes, don't move yet. You guys are all going to go to the cafeteria. Okay? Once those presentations are over, you are all excused. Okay, again, I will make myself available after this meeting. I'll be outside in the lobby spying on my daughter's volleyball practice. We also have don't move yet, guys. I see. I know you want to sit right up front in the cafeteria. We also have approximately 600 boxes of COVID tests outside in the lobby. You guys are welcome to take 1 or 2 if you like as you leave. Okay? I don't know anything else about that, so don't ask me. I was told to offer COVID tests to all of you if you would like them. So, lastly, I want you to know that I have an open door policy. I'm always available. Maybe not always in person, but please don't hesitate to reach out via email. Probably not best to call my office because I like to walk around. I don't like to sit still. I like to be outside. So if it's practice, I'm going to be outside watching practice. I'm going to be walking around. So email's always the best way to get in touch with me. But like I said, it's an open door policy. If you have a question, you have a concern, you're unsure about something, and your coach can't answer that question for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I will, like I said, either answer the question for you or direct you in the right direction. So I thank you guys so much for your time. And it's going to be an amazing school year. I'm super excited to see all of these boys compete at the highest level in whatever sport or sports they decide to participate in. And I can't thank you enough. And you have made the right commitment. So thank you very much. Parents, you're going to stay here. Oh, boys. There are tables in the cafeteria. If there is the need for more seats in the cafeteria, there are racks of chairs. You can pull a chair off a rack. If you pull a chair off the rack, guess what you get to do with that chair before you leave? Oh, you guys are smart. I like this. Good class. Okay, I'm going to let the athletes go to the cafeteria. Parents, you're welcome to stay here.
Are we ready? Yeah. All right, so I've been told I have 2.5 hours. So, my name is Jeff. I'm with the Positive Coaching Alliance. Freshman parents, sophomore parents, freshmen, welcome to high school. Yeah, my daughter is a rising sophomore in college, and my son is a rising junior in high school, 3-sport athlete. My daughter was a volleyball lacrosse player, and then in a crazy situation transitioned to varsity rowing in college. So yeah, we can talk about that offline. First order of business, if you could, sign in. Super important for Positive Coaching Alliance. We are a not-for-profit. We rely on fundraising. We have very generous sponsors, and they look at our attendance at workshops. So we will not spam, so you will only get relevant information that's to this particular workshop, and you can always unsubscribe, of course. So please take a moment to take out your phones. Hopefully the last time you'll feel the need to take out your phone while I'm speaking. Put that information in. And, oh wait, we did one thing. Thank you. Oh, okay, hang on. Sorry, guys. Wrong. That's what I want. Okay, there we go. Now you have the right numbers. Oh, sorry about that. So type in, you have to do the pound sign, unfortunately, 147932. Text to that number, 650-763-2405. I'll give everyone a moment to do that and then come right back. Thank you. If anyone's having trouble with that, just raise your hand. I know it seems a little warm in here, is that? Yes? It's so hot. Yes. Okay, very well.
Yes.
How long have you been here so far?
Too long.
I like the answer, too long. That makes me feel perfect. All right, so we'll try not to have you here too much longer. So what I'd like you to do, this is a workshop. What that means is we like it to be interactive. So rather than me just talking the whole time, that folks interact with each other and help drive the discussion. So interject me, interrupt me, ask questions, and we have a couple of activities where if you haven't already gotten to know folks around you, we'll do that again. So I'd like you at this point to maybe find your seat neighbor, either on the side, forward, back. We'll do a couple of these throughout the talk. And I'd like you to take about 2 minutes with your seat partner or partners, double up, triple up if you'd like to, and fours, whatever makes you comfortable, and talk about these questions. So what comes to mind when you think of your youth sports experience, if you had one? And how would you describe your child's experience, what you want it to be? Take a moment, discuss that, and we'll come back. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. Quick note of housekeeping. I had a very good question from the gentleman up in front. He said, "Who are you and why are we here?" Outstanding question. I made the erroneous assumption that Justin had done an introduction. Did not happen, so that's great. So I'll start. So I'm with the Positive Coaching Alliance. We're here to talk about how to be a sports parent. We're a national organization. I've been a trainer now for 4 years. I've been affiliated with Positive Coaching Alliance since 2009 when I first started coaching youth sports with my kids. I coached 35 teams across basketball, baseball, soccer, flag football, volleyball. I've been in administration. I've done travel team, rec teams, and I'm chairman of the Boosters organization at my son's high school right now. What we do here is we come and just tell you our philosophy on being a sports parent, what that is, what we think it should be, to give you some tips and tricks and advice. Whether you choose to use those is completely up to you. That's who I am. I'm local out of Redwood City. Know Sarah very well, know some kids that go here, know some parents that go here. So first, congratulate all of you. It's a fantastic school. I will lead with that. That said, do you now know why you're here? All right, cool. Okay. Volunteers to jump in. What were some answers to some questions? Let's start with the first one. What comes to mind when you think of your youth sports experience?
Good coaching.
Good coaching. Why? What made it good?
Even-tempered.
Even-tempered. Great answer. Great answer. So good coaching, even-tempered. Any other answers?
Confidence.
Confidence building. That's a tremendous answer. So good coaching, confidence building. Fun. You must be reading the next slide. Good coaching, fun. What else? One more. Purpose? Absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
Friendship.
Friendship. I think that's a... Do you want that same experience for your child? What were some words you used for your child's experience that you want it to be? What's that? Positive. Thank you. It's on my shirt. It's awesome. Pardon me? Confidence building. So, confidence is a great word. Sports, unlike really any other situation, teaches so many lessons in one arena, all at once, whether you're in practice or you're in games. Here are some, answers to goals that have also come. And you notice that things like scholarship is up there. And that is great. That's fine. That's a good goal. We try to be more process-oriented than outcome-oriented. But that's fine. One recommendation out of the Aspen Institute, it was a study done at a high school on the East Coast, which I thought was a really good idea, is just as your athletes have a curriculum assessment every year, they know how many classes they need to take to graduate, what GPA they have to have. What about a personal activity plan or a personal athletic plan? As a freshman, what do you want out of your 4 years here? As parents, what do you want out? As athletes, what do you want out? And this school actually interviewed the athletes and parents separately. And while there was alignment, you can imagine there was misalignment of those goals. And so I think as you think about your athletic journey, having a personal athletic plan might be on it. Here at PCA, we have 2 goals. So the name, whenever we talk about Positive Coaching Alliance, what do you think we get without anyone who knows about our organization? It's okay, I can take it. Participation trophies, group hugs, right? We don't want to even mention score. We don't even want to keep score. It's all about fun. No. Winning is part of sports. You're measured all the time in sports, right? The stats, the score, everything. So that's part of it. So we strive to win. Research, though, shows that when you merge life lessons with striving to win, that's the best outcome. Kids participate more, parents enjoy it more, coaches enjoy it much more. When I first started coaching, as I mentioned, I was a high school athlete, also a college athlete. When I first started coaching, really when we got to 8U. Any coaches out here right now? Okay. When we got to 8U, I almost fell on the ground. It was softball, and travel teams playing year-round. I didn't realize that it was going to come up, and it did, and it came up in a strong way. I didn't have the tools to deal with that. Every game, to me, was this weight on my back. Like I was being judged by my peers, coaching, and I'm just volunteering, trying to have fun, spend time with my daughter. Came to Positive Coaching Alliance and like, well, wait a minute, that's okay to want to win, that's okay to be competitive, that's fine, that's the spirit, that's what gets you going. But understand the life lessons behind it. How that actually keeps you going, keeps in the sport. Whether you are, and at Sarah or other high schools, right, the competition gets a little bit tougher. You might get cut. It may not happen freshman year, but it may happen junior year. Well, then what do? You play another sport. And if you develop those life lessons, develop that love for the sport, that will follow. So we put these two together. What we call a second goal parent. So a second goal parent, we would like you to focus on the life lessons. Why do you think that is? What role do you think you play in the high school sports experience? Support. Great answer. Absolutely, support. What else? And that's financial, right? Emotional. All of the above. What other role do you see yourself playing? Chauffeur. I saw the slide about driving to practices, even in high school. Yes, you are absolutely a chauffeur. And we'll talk about being a chauffeur. It's a great example. If you listen while you're in the car with the kids, it's amazing what you pick up. Support, being a chauffeur. One more. What's that? Yeah. Listening and the experience. Our principles are based on three things. The ELM Tree of Mastery. And ELM is an acronym, ELM, for effort, learning, and how to deal with mistakes. We just made it M because it made ELM sounded better than dealing with mistakes in an acronym. Filling emotional tanks. So empty tank, full tank. We think you're better on a full tank, supported by research. How do we get to that full tank? And the lessons are in the game. For me, the second one, filling the emotional tank, was the hardest as a coach. But, and as a parent, it's the most important. If that emotional tank is full, everything else happens. So if you are going to take away one action item, fill your athlete's emotional tank. Figure out what fills the tank. You know your kids better than anybody else. What does that? And do that. Are there times that you need to teach them, potentially offer criticism? Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk about strategies on how to do that. What's that? Constructive criticism. I'll say one thing, and I say this to the athletes and the coaches, because I've been in this situation as an athlete, coach, and parent. Right now, we are not in the arena. We're in an auditorium, hot auditorium. Yeah. Right, we've been here for a while. We're not in the heat of the moment. We're not watching our kids play. Our emotions are not heightened. Our senses aren't heightened. We're not feeling ourselves being judged by other folks. So, in this arena, it's much more simple to think about and agree with these principles. But these are something that you practice over and over and over again. So when you are in that heat of the moment, who saw the Little League player get hit in the head and run out and hug the pitcher? See that video? Yeah, that's what the Little League World Series is awesome. Whether you like baseball or not, you see sportsmanship at its finest. Maybe because everyone's on TV and they know that everyone's watching. But who cares, right? It happens. So, you'll have to decide when you're in the heat of the moment, what strategies do you deploy on yourself to pull back into the principles that you want to model? Practice, practice, practice. Are you going to make mistakes? Yes. Mistakes are okay. They're 100% okay. And what we hope that you do is you make a mistake, but then you correct the mistake. We focus on the mastery side. Why do you think we focus on the mastery side? What is it about that side that's different than the other side? Yes?
About yourself.
It's about yourself, exactly. You have control. Control your controllables. Who has heard that phrase before? Control the controllables. You can control your effort. You can control your learning. You can control how you deal with mistakes. You have that power. The other stuff, I don't know if you guys were watching the Giants and Padres last night, but the home plate umpire wasn't too friendly to the Giants a couple of times, right? You can't control that. But what you can control is how you react to that. And so that's why we focus on the effort side of this equation. The other side, you can't do anything about. It's okay to think about, but don't obsess over it. Take a moment now with your partners again and just talk about two things. What fills your emotional tank as a sports parent, but also what fills your athlete's emotional tank? And filling, I mean in a good way, not in a bad way. All right, take 2 minutes, discuss it with your group, and we'll come back.
I'm upsetting Chris, and I'm not good. That's what I want.
Volunteers. Let's start with the athletes. What were some words, phrases that fill your athlete's emotional tank? Bonding with the coach. Positive coaching. Positive coaching. Absolutely. Pardon me?
Space. Like give it to the space to think about it overall.
Absolutely. There's a lot to unpack with the word space. And that is a great way to describe it.
Accomplishment.
Accomplishment, absolutely. Even if it's just camaraderie. These are great words. Space, accomplishment, camaraderie, positive coaching. Improvement. All right, now the reverse. What about, not the reverse. What fills your emotional tank as a sports parent? Pride. Absolutely.
Just to see them trying their best.
Yep. Absolutely.
Smile when they leave the field.
Smile when they leave the field.
Growth, maturity.
Maturity, seeing them grow. How they handle situations, how they handle adversity. Improvement. Effort. Do you take their performance personally? I do. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. We have a ton invested, right? Just everything. Yes. See them compete. Absolutely. Seeing that joy, right, in that heat of the moment, in that competition. So remember those words, right? So when you're talking to your athletes, talking to each other, remember those words. When you're in the arena, right, in the heat of the moment, remember those words. Remind yourself, why are we here? What do we want out of it? And are we getting what we want out of it? And if we're not, why? We'll talk about some strategies on how to get there. Even in high school. So the one thing I have for you is when you're in 6U and 5U, right, it's everything just to have the right snacks. They're all handed out, right? Kids running around, it's fun. You're with your friends. Maybe a couple adult beverages on the side. as you grow up, right, you've got these three legs. You've got development, competition, and fun. At 5U and 6U, it's fun. And if anyone goes in the other direction, you know, I would say that's rare. As you get older, and as you're now in high school, that balance starts to shift. That's okay, but it does start to shift, right? Competition, development, and fun. And so, as you enter high school, though, those principles that you just described to me about what fills the emotional tank, that doesn't change. That is constant. So remind yourself of that when you are in that heat of the moment. Another piece to this is honoring the game, right? Honoring the game. So when we were kids, right, social media didn't exist. And so we knew what we just experienced. Now, everything gets posted, right? You see everything. So sometimes that can confuse people, like it happens all the time. It might not. So we boiled down to honor the game to ROOTS, an acronym, ROOTS. Respect for the rules, your opponents, the officials, your teammates, yourself. This is how we ground your thinking, our thinking, in ROOTS. Again, a good acronym to remember. And the officials part is what comes up all the time, right? So, bad call, who knows what happens, right? That's when you start to see the emotion on the sidelines as a parent, right? And so that's when you're in the moment. That's when you come back to those principles and why you're there. And we'll talk about some strategies on how to get there. So, we have a concept called, no directions cheering, right? There was a good video by a GM in an NBA GM, and he did an experiment where they were doing a camp, and they had one or two kids stand in the middle of the court, and they had parents just yelling out instructions from the sideline. Pass, run, go left, go right, trying to get the player to the basket. So that was the goal, right? And the player was blindfolded, right? Well, you can imagine what happened. The player never made it anywhere near the basket. And the GM made an interesting point. He said, well, hey, the parents that were saying shoot the ball are the parents of the player with the ball. The parents that were saying pass the ball were parents of the player that didn't have the ball but wanted the ball so they could shoot. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic. So we came up with directionless, non-directions cheering. So this is an area where, are you going to be perfect all the time? No. I still do it, right? But if you can remember those principles that you discussed with your folks around you, and not be so specific. Whose job is it to say pass the ball or use a direction? The coach. The coach. Roles. Roles are huge in sports. If you can remember your role, right? Coaches coach, athletes play, officials officiate, and parents support and cheer. Are you also a coach as a parent? Yeah, you do that, just not in that arena, right? Use time outside that arena for that coaching. But if you can remember your role and remember those principles that you discussed with each other, I hope that you will feel better after the game. Not as exhausted, emotionally spent. And maybe feel better about yourself as well. Okay, so how do you do this? High school can be a little different. Same with travel teams, even sometimes some rec teams, where coaches don't want to hear from the parents. Why don't coaches want to hear from the parents? It's usually negative, right? If you kept telling them how great they are, they'd love to hear from you. There's a lot of them, right? Death by 1,000 cuts. Absolutely. I think those are two of the most salient points. Like, it is negative because you're coming to them with what? What do you generally come to them for? Playing time, making the team, the future, scholarship, whatever that it is, the outcomes, right? But I'm here to tell you that it's okay to make early contact with the coach. You'll find out right away what they think about parents, so that's good knowledge for you to have. I would imagine at Sarah that is positive, knowing what I know about the athletic department and Justin. But it's okay to tell them just who you are, what you're about, who your player is, and just saying hello, making that connection, nothing else. Fill the coach's emotional tank. So get to know what makes the coach run. Why does the coach love the coach? What's the background of the coach? How long has he or she been at Sarah? Why do they coach? What's their favorite part about coaching? Those are great ways to get coaches to engage. And for you to understand what filling their emotional tank is all about. So this is designed so when you're in the arena, in the heat of the moment, we actually teach this to coaches. You'll see it sometimes when a mistake happens on the field or something happens on the field that's negative. How often do you see coaches just explode and react? It happens a lot, right? They're invested, they're emotional, totally okay. It happens a lot. There's a cooling off period, right? So understand yourself. If you're feeling yourself getting anxious or not quite sure how to deal with what emotions are running through, figure out a game plan. What is your cooling off approach? Mine as a coach was just to kind of take a few steps backwards and a few steps forwards. And that kind of reset my mind. And as a parent, on the sidelines, I rarely say anything. And if it is, at this point, it's definitely more positive and about cheering. But a cooling off period is certainly important. We do recognize there are situations where intervention is required, and that's okay. So go to the coach, make your case in a adult, mature way, right? But that's okay. In a quick summary, the toolkit, we talked about letting the coaches coach, let them do their jobs. And in return, they'll let you do your job, right, as a parent. Putting your child in the middle has extremely negative consequences across the board, right? So if you even sense that, would argue that just take a break, take a breath, come back, and figure out a new strategy. You never want your athlete stuck in the middle. I'm sure that's not what you want, surely not what the coaches want. And somebody said earlier, space, right? Space. Especially in high school, now's the time. Teach your athlete to self-advocate. You're not getting playing time, go to the coach. What can I do to earn that playing time? What are you seeing? How can I get stronger? What can I do? How can I get faster? What can I do? Self-advocating is power. It's power for that athlete. And it shows the coach that they are serious and committed to improving. And coaches will tell you that's the athlete they want. You're all good athletes. But Only a few have that, I want to improve, I want to get better all the time. And that's what coaches really like, that's what they want. Okay, group exercise. College athletes were asked about their worst youth sports experience. I'm not going to tell you the overwhelming answer. We'll talk about it. Talk amongst yourselves for 2 minutes. We'll come back, show you the answer, and see what you have to say. Four, three, two, and one. All right, so the good news is Justin just came in and informed me that you all are a little warm in this room. So we're max 10 minutes from ending. All right? So FYI, hopefully that fills your emotional tank. All right, what are some answers here? The most dreaded experience.
The ride home.
High achieving room, absolutely, yes. The car ride home. So, there's a good documentary, well, you can decide if it's good. I enjoyed it, called Trophy Kids.
I don't like that right.
And in that, it's actually about,
Complaining.
I think it was put out in 2009, but there's a scene of a dad with his son who plays football at the car ride home, and it's brutal. I think that's an extreme example. The car ride home is such an interesting topic. We say it's like essentially avoid it. Why avoid it? Emotionally charged. Are you emotionally charged at that time? Yes. Are your athletes emotionally charged? Yes. Does that generally work out? No. No. It might make you feel better in the moment. You gotta get it out. But it doesn't work. Is it okay to have a discussion in the car ride home? And how would you tee that up?
Let them engage it.
Let them engage it. Ask the question, is it okay if I? And if you see that they're emotionally charged, what's probably the best strategy? Yeah, just turn up the radio, right? Go get some food, right? Something like that. So, the last point we didn't talk about, which was resisting the urge to fix it. You know your athletes. The car ride home, and I'm going to go off PCA script here in my own experience, can be a good place if you both are in a good place. If the athlete and you are in a good place, have the discussion. Generally it's not. Generally it's a charged environment. Start with something positive, right? What went well today? What did you like about the game? What did you like about practice? Did you have fun? Engage that way. The other piece, though, is we sometimes fall into coaching, right? That's where it gets a little dicey with your athletes, especially in high school, right? So you have to know yourself when to engage, how to engage, and where to engage. The research, though, is definitive. The car ride home is not the place. Just keep that in the back of your mind. And it's always, resist the urge to fix it. If your player is struggling, what are some ways to fix it or address it? Talk to the coach. Absolutely. That's the best way. What are some ways you can address it? As opposed to speaking to them, what can you do?
Just turn on YouTube and happen to have a fix-it video of that issue. Definitely. Yeah, exactly.
open up their TikTok. I'm sure something's in there, for that. So, definitely. But asking questions, right? Let them drive the conversation. Yes.
Get rid of electronics during the season.
Get rid of electronics during the season. I'll leave that up to you. I'll leave that up to you. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip ahead. Okay. I'll only talk about the second one here. So bad calls happen, they will happen. Best strategy is just to remain silent, right? Dave Fleming last night was not silent on some of those strike calls with the Giants. But it's the best approach. Why is staying silent so powerful? Respect. So you're modeling. Other people see you. Your athletes see you. Other parents see you. When someone is just really going at an official, are you all of a sudden super comfortable? No. So just in the back of your mind, just remember that technique. All right, we went through these. All right, last slide. Coaching partnership. You decide what that is with your coaches. How to develop a partnership. Again, come back to that personal athletic plan. Just like you have an academic plan, have an athletic or activity plan. Map it out. Talk about it. And it will change. Just like curriculum, the curriculum is set, but there are a couple of other classes that you can choose. Athletics will change. Make sure that you change with it. And we talked about modeling and reinforce all these principles to your athletes. Try it out. Practice it. And hopefully, you will feel better for doing those things. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for